Bloomberg Audio Studios. Podcasts, radio, news.
The Stock Movers Report, your roundup of companies making moves in the stock market, harnessing the power of Bloomberg data.
Taking a look at in the S&P 500, a deeper dive in there, pulling back the layers. Things don't look so good if you're long this market. 425 stocks to the downside, only 78 stocks in the green today, Katie.
All right, let's take a look at the circle, at the sectors, what the performance there looks like. It's not good. You only have one spot of green there, and that is consumer staples, up about 0.33%. Just tells you what a defensive trade this is today. You think about what the big loser here is, and it's tech, down about 4% as a sector. Those chip names in particular hit hard, but really red across the board, Tim.
Well, it was tough to find stocks that moved higher today, but that was the task I was given, and I think I found 4 of them. 8.5% to the upside for MP Materials, and USA Rare Earths also up 5% today. U.S. listed rare earth and critical minerals stocks rose today. They extended gains after China unveiled new export curbs, and the U.S. government got more involved in the industry. Joe Doe was on our program, and he made the point that the export controls were announced a couple nights ago from China, but really gained a lot of attention in today's trade, partly due, and a big part of that had to do with the president's comments a little earlier. And the increase in negotiating power that we're seeing when it comes to certain things, right? On the U.S. side, it's high tech and chips, and on the Chinese side, it is these rare earths. Once again, MP Materials and USA Rare Earths up today in the trade. Also, Protagonist Therapeutics shares soaring on the day today. This rising to an intraday record after the Wall Street Journal reported that Johnson & Johnson is in talks to buy the biopharma firm. It's a clinical stage biopharma firm. Shares higher to the upside of close to 30%. The company already has a partnership with J&J to develop therapies for immune conditions, including an experimental treatment for plaque psoriasis. And finally, Applied Digital shares higher today. This is the digital infrastructure and cloud services provider based in Texas. The company did report earnings after the bell yesterday. First quarter revenue was well ahead of estimates due to one-time income from tenant fit-out services, but the reason shares are higher is because the firm said it's now in advanced talks with a hyperscaler client for its second data center campus in North Dakota. Shares today higher by more than 16%, Katie.
And I want to take a quick sidebar here and go to France because we do have some breaking news out of the French government, and that is Macron has renamed Sébastien Lecornu as France's new prime minister. Definitely a shock here. We know, of course, that he lasted about 27 days, I believe was the number in this slot. But again, here's the headline: Macron renaming Sébastien Lecornu as France's new prime minister.
All right, Katie, getting back to markets. It was a broad-based sell-off, so it wasn't hard to find decliners today, but I did try and find a couple companies that seemed to sell off related to some fundamental news in addition to just the broader macro sell-off. Levi Strauss falling 12% today. It was the worst intraday drop since April after the jeans maker's upgraded earnings guidance fell short of high investor expectations. So the stock had rallied 42% heading into the print. Some of that optimism was not met. One key disappointment, according to analysts, is that earnings growth for Levi's is failing to match the pace of sales expansion, and it's due to tariff and distribution costs. I'm also looking at Venture Global, falling 25%, down the most since March. This is a liquefied natural gas company, lost a dispute with BP today and involved the sale of LNG cargoes from a Louisiana facility on the spot market rather than to customers with long-term contracts. Analysts were surprised by the result of this dispute and the BP win and view it as a negative with a potential impact of over $1 billion for Venture Global. So that stock, again, down over 25 or a little bit less than 25% decline for the day. Finally, we'll go back to tech, that broad sell-off. I'm looking specifically at the VanEck Semiconductor ETF. The ticker is SMH. The top holdings, NVIDIA, TSMC, Broadcom. Listen, it's still up 34% year to date, but it was getting hit pretty hard today, falling almost 6% to close out the day.
All right, let's take a quick look at Treasuries. We did actually see a bid come back into that after we had seen earlier in the week the exact opposite. That pushed yields down across the curve. Most of the activity was kind of in the middle there, 5, 10, and 20-year down about 8 basis points. And you also see similar move on the 30-year, your 2-year yield down about 7 basis points. And of course, Tim, this all seems to link back to concerns about the U.S. government shutdown. But then, of course, that accelerated buying that we saw in that space days after the social media post by the president. Remember, President Trump had just been touting just over the last couple of weeks how he was looking forward to meeting with Xi maybe sometime towards the end of this month or in beginning of November. At least according to Trump, I don't know. He doesn't see a reason to.
But it raises the question, Romaine, about whether or not this is just the way that the president negotiates. I mean, isn't this what he does? He does this in public. He comes out with these statements. Sometimes they move markets, sometimes they don't. And then maybe he does end up meeting with whoever he's supposed to meet with, or he does end up getting what he wants. That's what we've seen play out over the last 9 months.
And in terms of what this all means for the equity market, we were just talking with Bloomberg News' Alex Semenova. She pointed out that a lot of these dips this year, even when it's related to geopolitical concerns, to tariff concerns, the dips have been bought. And so we really haven't seen a large-scale drawdown. Think about what happened after Liberation Day. There was a massive rally. If you were short the market, you really got hurt. So now it's kind of a wait and see what happens. Is this downturn more significant, or do we just see stocks rise on Monday?
I don't think I will ever forget what happened after Liberation Day. Those were some amazing intraday charts. But, you know, it does raise the question whether or not the fact that it is a Friday has something to do with why we aren't seeing this dip get immediately bought. There could be a hesitation out there to hold risk into the weekend. We know that, you know, social media never sleeps, so we could get more headlines then. But we were talking about this a little bit earlier. I've seen some folks raise the notion that maybe we'll see a revival of the taco trade. That is, of course, the idea that Trump always chickens out. It's a little bit rude, but it gets to the idea that this could just be part of the negotiation.
Well, there's a bigger issue, too, here, which is also the idea that this is also happening against the backdrop of a 10-day government shutdown that's deprived us of the economic data that the market was sort of looking to try to divine what comes next with the Fed. We did get an update from the BLS saying that they are recalling some people, so they maybe potentially get that data out by the end of the month. The CPI data that was supposed to come next week, they're now saying that that could actually be cobbled together also before the end of the month. But again, I mean, we're kind of just piecing this together here willy-nilly, and that means that if you are a bull, what conviction do you have to buy into this without any earnings, without any economic data, and without any semblance of peace in the tariff trade war?
Well, you're not going to have to wait long to get earnings information. We hear from some of the big banks next week. We got Goldman, Citigroup, Bank of America. They're among the banks that are reporting next week. And I think people are going to look really closely at commentary that we hear from Bank of America and Brian Moynihan about the quality of spending when it comes to consumers, about the extent that consumers are using their debit cards, how much cash they have, how much they're spending.
Can I give you my contrarian take on that?
Please.
I actually think it's going to be less important this quarter because we already know they're doing well. And I feel like the banks, and forgive me if any of the big banks are watching, but you're not really representative right now of the economy writ large. You're representative of a very sort of narrow slice of the financial economy.
But what about Bank of America that banks so many people?
Yeah, I mean,
normal people.
We'll get insights, but I would rather wait to hear from the other companies that are selling directly to the consumer. And more importantly, what about the AI trade and the CapEx spend there? Because that has been the driver of GDP. So that's what I want to hear. That's my contrarian.
You just jinxed it. Now it's somehow going to be the most important week of bank earnings we've ever seen.
I look forward to.
And I'll be gone.
I will be gone as well.
Yeah.
Are we going on vacation? We're going on vacation together. Romaine and I are.
Yeah, absolutely.
You guys,
I'm going on a bike
ride.
I'm going on a bike ride with Tim. It's a tandem bike.
Can't wait.
Really
I'm going to be in the back and let him do all the pedaling.
All right, we got to run.
The Stock Movers Report from Bloomberg Radio. Check back with us throughout the day for the latest roundup of companies making news on Wall Street. And for the latest market-moving headlines, listen to Bloomberg Radio live. Catch us on YouTube, Bloomberg.com, and on Apple CarPlay and Android Auto with the Bloomberg Business app.